The only thing that I changed in the prompt was girl, and I just giggled when it literally gave me the exact same accent wall, but it added pink curtains. Pink curtains. Welcome, welcome, welcome back. Today we are going over all of the accent walls I have put in my new home. If you've watched any of my videos DIYing my house, you have probably heard I love accent walls. For me, making a space my own and really customizing that space to my vision is all about adding a well-placed, well-thought-out accent wall. If you're wanting to see all the accent walls I've done, please continue to watch this video. Let's do a twist though. Who just wants to see accent walls? That's kind of boring. At least, I find it entertaining. I enjoy doing the accent walls and I enjoy talking to you guys about how I did them. I thought it would be fun to add a twist to this by us comparing what AI designed for each room with regard to an accent wall and then what I did. And if you guys think AI did better or if I did better. Sorry guys, I sound a little bit off because I am sick thanks to my husband and his germs. So sorry if my voice sounds weird and also if I am coughing or if you see large periods where you can tell that I have cut things out. It is because I was coughing all over the place. So sorry about that. But the 3 different AI systems that I used for the accent wall inspiration were ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and then Home AI. I thought it would be fun to see what all 3 of them recommended based off of the same prompt that I used, and then show you what I did. I gave them pictures for my son's room, my daughter's room, the downstairs, and then the bathroom downstairs, the half bath. I told it to completely remodel that so I could see what it recommended I should have done, and then I will show you guys what I have already done, which you likely, hopefully, have already seen that if you have watched that video. But if not, I'll link it up above so you're able to go back, watch that video in full, and see everything that I did to make that bathroom look more updated and luxurious. I'm really excited for you guys to see what AI did. And I'm very interested to know if you think I did a better job or if you think AI did a better job. I also think it's very interesting to see the differences between each AI tool. The Home AI tool was definitely better at doing this, which you would expect because that is what it's for. Let's go ahead and get started. The first area that we are going to look at is my son's room. So I am going to pop it over here so that you can see it. The first picture that we have is from Google Gemini. So you can see that it provided shiplap throughout the entire wall and then lights on either side. I thought it was interesting that it chose the window of all things to do the accent wall on versus the back wall of the room. And then it put some decor examples. So this is, I feel like, a very basic accent wall. Me personally, when I'm doing an accent wall, I like to add a pop of color to really make it look like an accent wall and catch your eye. This is very boring. I did tell it farmhouse style, so do a farmhouse style inspired accent wall for a young boy child that can translate to the future. So then I asked it to do the same thing for my girl's room, and the only thing that I changed in the prompt was girl, and I just giggled when it literally gave me the exact same picture our accent wall, but it added pink curtains. Pink curtains. Google Gemini may not be the best option for getting inspiration for an accent wall. The next accent wall that we're seeing is the same prompt, and it is for my son's room, but this was done by ChatGPT. I like the aspects of this wall. You have shiplap down at the bottom because, again, I asked it to do a farmhouse inspired look. So shiplap is very common for farmhouse inspired accent walls. So you see the shiplap down at the bottom, but then you have a wood accent at the top. This would be a lot of work to do. This would be a lot of work to do unless you bought a wallpaper that looked like this, or you bought something that was pre-made. Like sometimes you can find wood frames that are like this and then put them next to each other, but I doubt you would be able to find something this large. Maybe you could, but that would still be very expensive. In true fashion, I copied the prompt and then changed everything to girl, and I think ChatGPT and Google Gemini maybe have some things in common with how they were made, because ChatGPT basically gave me the exact same accent wall, except for they changed it to girl and they made the wood accent pink. I like how this looks. I think it's beautiful. Again, it would be very complicated to do this. It would take a lot of work, and it would be very expensive to do this type of accent with the wood. However, it is very cool to see. I just thought, again, it made me giggle that it just changed like two different things and said, ta-da! And maybe that was its intent. It was thinking, oh, like maybe you messed up and you said boy, but you actually meant girl, so I'm just going to give you the same thing that I gave you before and change it slightly so that it meets the criteria versus creating a whole new different look or idea. Lastly, let's go into the Home AI version and see what that looked like. In Home AI, you have the ability to regenerate. So I regenerated it another time to see if it provided a completely different look or if it just tweaked something small and then that was it. So for Home AI, the first accent, I feel like meets more of the criteria that I asked of it, where it's something that could translate to when my son is older. I like this accent. The eagle is not something that I personally would put on a wall, but I like the wood feature that it has, where it has the wood in the background that is unstained and in a shiplap type pattern, and then you have dark painted wood on top of that is in a pattern. I think that is a cool accent wall, and I think that it did way better than the two AI platforms that we talked about before, which makes sense because it is for specifically homes. For the next option, it was somewhat similar but different, where it put shiplap in the background, but it was white. It has wood on top of that is painted, that's in a accent, and then in the middle you have a sign that says adventure awaits, which that is something that you could change as the child gets older. I think that this is, again, a cool accent wall. I think that this doesn't, for me, it doesn't necessarily fully say boy. It is more an accent wall that I think I would put in a master bedroom or a guest bedroom than a child's bedroom, in my opinion. For my daughter, again, it chose the wall that had the window, which I thought was interesting. I personally would not do an accent wall with the window, but I can see there being some advantages to that where you can put a shelf down at the bottom like it has. I thought this accent wall was very interesting. Again, I don't think that this really screams girl in any way or young girl. This is really an accent wall that is more elevated that you would see for a master or a guest bedroom. When I regenerated it though, I think this translates better to a girl's room. And I liked how this one looked, where you have a wallpaper up at top and then you have board and batten down at the bottom that is white. And you'll see that this is similar to what I have actually done in my daughter's room. Before I show you what I have done, what have your guys' thoughts been so far about these AI generated accent walls? I think that some of them have been very unrealistic from a standpoint of how much time it would take and how much money it would take. Yes, they can be done. I think that there is a way to do an accent wall that costs way less money, way less work, and still looks very luxe and translates more boy or more girl than some of the things that they've shown us. Of the options that I have seen thus far from Home AI and from all of the other options, I like the last one the most for the girl, where you have the green with the flowers and then the board and batten on the bottom. I really like how that one looks actually, and that's something that I could imagine potentially doing as an accent wall in a room. So what have I done for my kids' rooms? For my son's room, you can see I have done a pop of colors. I have done a very pretty dark blue color for the accent wall background. And then on top is a pattern of wood that goes down and up, and so that they meet in the middle. And this wood is raw but stained a darker color. This accent, I think, really translates boy that right now is young boy, but then in future you can really make this to him being older, and really you could change a couple of things if you wanted to. You don't really need to. It would still translate very well. The thing that would make the difference is the furniture that's in there on how this room really reads. That is what I did for my son's room. It was not very expensive because his paint color is something that we have put in other areas of our home. So we really got the bang for our buck for the paint color. But the paint was maybe $40, $50. It just depends on how much paint was at the time that we bought it, and I can't remember. We did two things to make the wood more safe for him, though he's not going back there touching it trying to get splinters. We sanded the sides of the boards, and then we also planered them. Planer takes off a layer of the wood and makes it more smooth, so we did that on both sides, and that goes through very quickly, so that didn't take much time. And then anything that didn't get, we sanded those, and then we stained it. And then once you stained it and you figured out how far you wanted them to be away from each other, it was very easy to just push it up on the wall and nail gun them in, and they're very secure. Because we did that, we bought very inexpensive, cheap wood that is safe to be used in the house. And we bought them as bundles. So I think that it was like 12 pieces of wood in a bundle for, oh gosh, I'm not going to know the cost of the bundle. It wasn't much. It was $20 or under for each bundle of wood, and it came with 12, like I said, or more of them. So it wasn't a expensive project. At most it cost $100. It probably did not cost that much money. What about my daughter's accent wall? I love the look of wallpaper. I hate putting up wallpaper, and her room was the first room I ever put wallpaper up for an accent wall, and my husband both myself and my husband are somewhat of perfectionists. When it does not line up perfectly, because it's impossible to get it lined up perfectly, if you can figure it out, please let me know. Maybe it's the wallpaper that I bought. Maybe it is, I don't know what I'm doing fully. I'm not sure, but I followed all the instructions that said I am able to line up the first whatever piece to 2 pieces, but then it quickly somehow gets unaligned, and I'm not sure how. There are a lot of factors that come in from a standpoint of your wall. It's not perfectly symmetrical, so that impacts that. And even when you try to start it where you have something that lines up, then later on down the seam it ends up not lining up. So again, maybe it's the wallpaper that I bought. That's very possible. I bought peel and stick wallpaper. I am not one to want to have to mess with wetting the back of it down, putting it up there, trying to get it to stay. I just use peel and stick. I've had no problem with it from a standpoint of that, except for it's not perfectly aligned. You cannot tell unless you are looking up close and you know exactly where to look. AKA, like my dad says, you can't see it from my house, but I know that it's there. So it bothered me a little bit. It bothered my husband when I first put it up, and he was like, I don't think that I'm gonna like this. Now he loves it. But we did wallpaper at the top, similar to what Home AI said, except for this is way more pink. And then we put a wood border and board and batten type pattern with wood down at the bottom, and we painted all of that a color that matched within the color of the wallpaper. Now that you have seen what I have done versus what AI has done, which one do you think is better? And as a note, I did these way before I got any sort of AI inspiration. All my inspiration comes from my brain, looking up wallpaper types and things like that, because I know what I want to do. It's just I don't know, what wallpaper am I going to choose, so on and so forth. If I really have no idea, Pinterest is where I go to get some examples of things that I want. Now let's look at the accent wall under the stairs. Google Gemini, I asked it to provide an example of an accent wall, and it literally just slapped a paint color on there. This is not an accent wall. What are we doing? But okay. So I kind of gave up on that, and I did a couple of examples from Home AI, and I just said provide an accent wall in this space. I gave the picture, and then I said to stick to a farmhouse type style. The first one that we see is a shiplap type pattern where it's just straight down vertical wise, and then it's painted a color. This picture that I took was before I did any of the accenting that I did on the main floor. As you can see, there is some framing and molding that's going on the bottom. That was already here as part of the house. I decided to paint that the same color as the doors to the office and our front door to tie all of that in, and it's a really beautiful accent. So I did something different up on top to tie all that in, but the Home AI did not get that reference. I didn't give that to them because I didn't want them to know that that's something that I was doing. The other option that it provided was basically the same thing but in an unfinished wood, and then it provided some accent or some like decor inspiration for the area. Lastly, a similar, they're really about the shiplap. I think that again that reads farmhouse to AI, so they're just going to put shiplap everywhere. But there's shiplap green, but it looks more distressed. And then again, it provided more decor examples on how to style that area. Then what did I do? You can see I again painted the area down at the bottom the same color to tie all that in, and then I used a beautiful wallpaper that had elements of that color. What are your thoughts? Do you think AI did a better job, or do you think I did a better job with that area? Lastly, we're going to do the downstairs bathroom. I said completely remodel it. using a farmhouse inspired style. For Google Gemini, it created this space, which I really like the image of this for multiple reasons. One, I like that the whole room is in shiplap. I think that that's very beautiful, though this would be extremely expensive. Shiplap is very expensive, and there's ways to do it in a more cheap manner, but still, even those ways cost about $100 or $200, if not more, and I didn't want to spend that much on just the wall itself. And then I like the vanity that it chose. That's not a vanity that I seen as an option, and that's just the reality with AI, right? That it's going to provide you things that you may not actually be able to buy or find anywhere. But I do like the farmhouse sink. You will see in what I have done that I chose a farmhouse sink. I like the shelving. That's something similar to what I did. We have a framed mirror, which elevates the space. The lighting, I think, is interesting that they did one light and then a light above the toilet. That's an interesting style design that I am not opposed to. I think that it's something that's more unique, but that would require wiring for the bathroom. That's not something that we wanted to have to do. We could do it, but that involves you having to cut out drywall to wire that and move the wiring where you need it to be, and then replace that drywall, which is just work we didn't want to have to do. Overall, I like the look of this bath. For ChatGPT, I thought it was interesting that their remodel really kept aspects of the main area. So it kept kind of the sink, though the sink is different. So it recommended to put in another porcelain sink. Why would you do that? I don't know. The toilet made me giggle. It's all the way up against the wall. I don't know how you're going to use that toilet, but ChatGPT thinks that you can just, I guess, turn to the side so that your feet would be, towards the sink. I don't know, but I thought that that was hilarious. Again, I think it's interesting that they made the shelf be on the side of the wall, and then the shiplap we have just on the bottom portion of the wall, which I feel like that doesn't look bad, and is something that I have seen in farmhouse inspired bathrooms. Overall, I don't really like the look of this one. Then for what I did with the bathroom, you can see I did a shiplap inspired accent wall. In the back, I added paint to it to make it look more unique and have a pop of color and texture to it. I only did it on one side of the wall, or one wall, instead of the entire room, because I feel like that would have made it look too busy. The shiplap was a panel that cost us less than $20. That was a very inexpensive way to do shiplap inspired accent wall. And then we replaced the vanity using a bathroom sink that has a farmhouse sink, and we kept the toilet. There was nothing wrong with the toilet. However, we changed the handle that flushes the toilet to be black instead of silver so that it matched with the hardware for the sink. We replaced the light, and then we changed the towel holder and the toilet paper holder. Overall, this bathroom remodel did not cost us that much due to the bathroom sink being paid for by the sellers of the home. If you're wanting to hear that story, you can go and watch the video linked above. Now you've seen everything. Who won the battle of the accent walls? Was it AI or was it Rachel from Lux on the Low? You let me know down below. Let me know if you enjoy this type of style of video. I thought it was fun to see, what does AI actually recommend us do? What inspo does it provide for us? And I will say AI is only as good as the prompt. Even then, it's not that good. And it depends on what style you have. I think that if it is a different style, it may be better at doing some of the things that you're asking for. Although I think farmhouse style is pretty common, at least in my neck of the woods where I live. That's a common style that you see in homes. I really enjoyed doing this video. I think AI still has some to learn, which is good. We don't want it knowing everything, right? We don't want it to be replacing every aspect of our lives. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe so that you can see me the next time I am here. I hope you have a luxurious day. Bye guys.